This is our second example on pivot tables where we're going to use another set of data. This data, for example, is for the marketing team of a particular company where there are a lot of people who have signed up on their website between the months of January 2005 and March 2015 and March 2015. Now they could have signed up either as from a Facebook ad or a reference from someone or a newsletter or the blog of the company or from the website directly. Each user is given a username that's given here in column 1. What date did they sign up on? What was the day, that date, and what was the month on that particular date essentially, and what was the source and what was the week in the year in which it was signed up, right? In the data, if you only have the date signed up given, you will see that we have used a couple of simple functions to identify what is the day of the week what is the day of the week on that particular date and what is a month in terms of text, right? So let's look at this. If I just select the function text and add B9, which is the cell on which the date is, and then do an in inverted commas DDDD, this gives me the date. If I just put 3Ds, it will give me in the short form the date. If I put 4Ds, it's going to give me the entire day. Similarly, for the month, all I need to do is instead of DDD, I need to put in MMM. If I put in MMM, it will give me Jan. If I put in MMM, it will give me January. So based on that, we can identify and find this out, even if it is not given as a data. But let's say this is given as a data. We need to now try and find out which of these is the best source. From where do they get most of the references? Which is the month on which they get most of the references? What is the day of the week on which marketing campaigns work the best? And on what day, which is the best campaign? Right? So that is what is supposed to be found out with this data. So once again, we will select this entire data set. This time, this is a bigger data set that we have. We have close to about 160 odd data items, 65 data items. So we select this, click on insert and click on insert a pivot table. We'll put a pivot table in a new worksheet and click OK. So we get this as the pivot, right? Now, interestingly, let's also name this as pivot, right? Now, on this, interestingly, till now we have seen pivots where essentially the pivot would look at the sum of the values. Here we are not bothered about sum of the values. We want to know how many clients signed up on a particular day. So when I take username, what data set will come in this tab for values? What parameter will come here? This is the username and the count of the username, the number of users that have to come in. When I put it here, automatically, because it's a text data, Excel automatically will plug in the count of the username. If any other data doesn't make sense, right? So count of the username comes up as your primary value that you're going to see, right? Now we can figure out on what day how many people signed up from which source. So let's say I put source as columns and we immediately know which was the point from where people signed in. So was it blog, was it Facebook ad, was it newsletters, reference websites? Out of 167, we find newsletters was the least effective method, right? Then we put in, let's say, month. Which of the months was least effective? So the least effective month was February, obviously has lesser number of days, but month wise, which parameter works the best? Let's say we want to try out month wise which parameter works the best. So remember, we can show values as rank largest to smallest, and you want to rank on the base field of month, right? Sorry, you want to rank on the base field of the source. So you rank it based on source and you find that in January, references was the best thing. In February, Facebook ads was the best one. And in March, the website became the best one. And you find two of them being one is because both of them would have returned the same parameter in February, right? So no calculation. We see 12 from Facebook ad and 12 from the website, right? So that gives us a sense of which month which particular channel has worked the best and worked the least. Website was the least in the first case and reference was the highest, whereas website suddenly became the best in the third month and best in the second month as well. So maybe you could get a sense that people started visiting more of their website during this. So this has a lot of managerial implications as you go along, right? So in the first month, website was the worst performing channel for marketing. In the second and third month, however, that became the best channel of marketing, right? So they must have probably done something with the website, or generally some sort of marketing efforts would have played out there, which comes here. Now, instead of month, we can also say what day of the week, what channel works, right? Now, we realize two things immediately. One is essentially which is the best day of the week. If you were to kind of do a show values as percentages of grand total, you find 19% of the grand total comes on Thursdays, right? So essentially Thursdays is your biggest segment, whereas Facebook ad is your biggest and website is your biggest contributor over the other set of data points, least being newsletters here, right? Now let's do the show values as column total, and we find each of these segments on what days works as the highest and lowest numbers. Similarly, you could show values as row total, and we will see that, let's say, on a Wednesday, which is the best performing channel, that's website. On a Thursday, that's website. But on a Friday, Facebook ads work the best. So it seems that on Fridays, people log into Facebook more, right? We could also put this in the form of a rank, largest to smallest, and just rank it based on source. Look at where the ones are. So on Monday, blogs and Facebook ads work the best. On Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, you will find that your website works the best. Friday, Facebook works. Saturday, newsletter works. Sunday, reference works as per the data. And Monday, Facebook again and blog again works. So if the company is spending money on a day-to-day basis, they can now channelize the money with these data points. This is what is the power of a pivot table for us. So essentially a pivot table can give us data set in terms of where is the concentration happening and which is the best source that is helping us do that, correct? Let's just remove some of the data. Let's remove the source and put it again. So we have cleared that out, and let's remove the ranks. So no calculation is what is needed, correct? So that's the data set. We could also try and look at it week wise in terms of weeks and then convert it. Week 1 started on Thursday. Essentially, we can remove days and see week wise which was the best week when the performance happened. There were some weeks where Facebook did not work at all, correct? Now this is not getting sorted because this week 1, week 10, week 11 is getting sorted in the form of a text, so does not give us a correct data, but we can sort it separately. And let's go back to our day components and see that on Thursdays it makes sense to put something on the website, whereas on weekends, Fridays, it makes sense to put something on Facebook as a marketing channel for the firm, right? That's what this data tells us. That is the most effective medium of marketing on a particular day in a particular month, and that's where maximum number of users are signing up. That's the second example that we would see in terms of pivot, and it gives us a sense of how can the data be represented in terms of various requirements in the firm, and how can we effectively use and mine this data in terms of trying to come up with a solution to any kind of a problem that, let's say, the marketing department is trying to get their hands on. The bigger problem here is that the marketing department has a certain amount of funds and they are not sure where to allocate that fund. This kind of a data analysis helps us identify where those funds can be allocated and on what days. How do you go and work around these data points, right? So that's the second example on pivot tables.